Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make this beaded diamonds macrame bracelet, and it looks like this. So this is just what mine looks like with the materials that I've used. So the purple cord here alongside with my gemstones agate there in multicolored green and purple. I thought it would go really nicely together, and then spaced out with the copper beads as well. So that's just what mine looks like. I used extender chain and Lobster claw clasp here. So we're going to learn how to make this one today. Another version that I've done of this is this bracelet. So you can see it's the same basic technique, but I've just got multiple rows on this one, and this is just micro macrame to fit in more rows without having it getting too big. So this will be a separate tutorial, so when that's available I'll put a link in the description box below the video. But today we're going to learn how to do this one. So if you want to learn how to make this, then keep watching. So it's these materials here that we'll need to make this bracelet. First of all, we'll need a cord, and in this case I'm working with a 0.9mm Eslon, and it's a nice deep purple colour. And then we'll need some beads as well. Now the beads that I'm using, these are 10mm faceted rounds, and they're a multicolour agate. So it's a gemstone bead that I'm working with, and it's just got these green and purple colours mixed together. I really like the look of that, especially along with the purple cord. I think they'll go really nice. And then as well, I've got some 4mm metal spacer beads, and these are just some copper ones. Again, I thought they would work really well with the colour scheme. But you can really use whatever beads you want to. These are just the ones that I'm going to be using. I quite like the larger ones in the middle for this bracelet because it kind of fills in the gap nicely. But you could also easily just do a bunch of smaller beads or whatever you really want to. So then also what we'll need is, I'm going to be using some jump rings, both to attach our clasp and that, but also to actually start the macrame from. In this case I'm just using some 7mm jump rings. You can use some other sizes. I just find that to be quite perfect because I don't want it to be too small jump rings, but they don't need to be too large either. So I've got some 7mm jump rings, and then just your clasp and extender chain, whatever you want to use. So let's get it all together and then let's get started. So the lengths of cord that we'll need is 7 lengths in total of about 1.5 meters each, and we're going to use these throughout. Each of these are going to be doubled over, so one is going to turn into 2 working lengths of cord. So then what we want to start out doing is taking our jump ring here, and you want to make sure that it's nicely closed. Either use a closed jump ring or just make sure it's closed nicely so your cord can't slip through the opening. So we have that, and then we need to take 1 length of cord here. Now what I've done is I put the ends together like that to find the middle. So I know up here where I have my loop, keep hold of that, and then that's about the midpoint of my cord. I need to take that, put it through my jump ring, go through for the bottom here, take my loop back around like that, open it up, put your fingers through, and then pull the ends of your cord all the way through, and then pull this tight. And then this is a lark's head knot. This is how we would now attach the first cord onto the jump ring. This is going to be a starting point here. Now what I'm working on here as well is a macrame project board, and I'm going to be using some T-pins to help fasten down my work as we go. So first off, I'm just going to put this jump ring onto my board, so it's going to make it a little bit easier to start working with when it's fastened in place there. So just take your pins through the jump ring so it's nice and secure. There we go, it's not going to keep moving around now. So we now have this 1 length of cord attached to the jump ring, and it's now turned into 2 lengths of working cord. And then the first thing I'm going to do now, before I add in any more cords to this, is actually just make my first knot here. So we have the 2 lengths coming out from that lark's head knot. What you'll find is that your cord will naturally be coming out to each its own side. Just make sure you stick with that. So that means my right one is the one over here. So I'm going to take that, bring it over the left one. So I'm going to get ready to do my first double half hitch here. So the left one comes underneath the right one, and is my first working cord. That's this one. So take that around your finger with the holding cord that you're holding there. Pull it all the way through. So you're going to have the cord from the left coming underneath and then looping back around the cord from the right. And then pull it up, tighten that. As you're holding your holding cord kind of at a downward angle like that. Do it one more time for a double half hitch. Pull it all the way through and then tighten it there. So now we have the beginning part and the two chords here coming out nicely, more naturally at an angle like this. And it's now these two we want to add all the rest of our chords onto. So the way we want to do that is take one chord at a time. So I've got my chord here, and again I've done the same thing, put the ends together to find where the middle is here. We now need to attach this one onto this chord. So I'm just going to attach onto one chord at a time here, just put the other one out of the way for now. What I'm going to do is this loop, that's the midpoint of that chord, I'm going to put that underneath the chord coming from the knot up here. And then first off we're going to do the same thing, we're going to do the lax head knot again. So put your fingers through and then pull the tails through that loop. Just like that. We have that, and then when we tighten that, it's going to be the same lax head knot that we attached onto the jump ring. But what we need to do as well is just another step here. So just to make sure it's tightened. Then you'll have, like I said, your chords are coming out naturally towards one side. So I'm going to take the one coming to the right side first, that on its own, put it back around the holding chord, around the top, all the way like that, and then pull it back underneath and through the loop. So just like that. So what this is basically is a half hitch on the side of the lax head knot. So we tighten that as well, all the way up to the lax head knot. Now we do the same thing on the other side. So the cord from the other side there towards the left of the knot, put that over the holding cord, back underneath and through the loop. And there we go, and that's now the half hitch on the other side of the knot, and tighten that. So what we have here is now a lax head knot with a half hitch on each side, and the reason that we do that is we need it a bit more spaced out than just using the lax head knot to be able to go straight into the pattern that we're going to do. So that's how we attach the knots, all the rest of the chords with these knots then. So you do this 3 on each side, so you do another 2 on there, and then you go and do the other 3 chords on this side. So we end up actually having 6 working chords on each of the original chords there. So now that we attached all the chords onto the original chords coming from the jump ring there, then this is what we should have. We've got the 2 original chords out at an angle there from the jump ring, and then I've attached 3 chords on each of those that are then turned into 6 working chords in total on each side, because each of them have turned into 2. So this is where we're at now. So you can kind of see they're kind of naturally wanting to cross over each other like this, and that's actually what we want, but along the way here we need to make knots for it to kind of hold together properly. So just going to tighten that there. This is in the beginning point, so again, because we're working on this board, what you can do is just put some more pins in just to help keep your work taut while you're working with it. Make sure that these 2 kind of rows of knot will be attached are at the right angle. Basically what we want is, I'm just going to put some pins in here to help hold it in place before I start working with it. It's going to make it much easier. Basically what we want is these 2 rows to come out from that jump ring at a 90-degree angle. So they form a 90-degree angle like that. So I'm going to place my pins in just temporarily, so I know that they sit how I want them to. So there we go. Now we need to do is start making knots with all of these chords here crossing over. So what we want to do is go right into the center and pick out the very first chord, the inner chord towards the center there, on each side. So that means make sure you grab the right ones. See if I can get it out here. It's this one. So it's these 2, the ones in the very inner corner there. So what I'm going to be doing is we need to constantly kind of keep crossing chords over. It doesn't matter whether you take your right or your left one over the other one, as long as you stay consistent throughout. I have a natural habit of just always taking my right one over my left one, same as I did up there just after the lax head knot for the jump ring. So that's what I'm just going to keep doing. So just try and make sure to keep taking the same one over. So whether it's the right or the left one, because that way you get a nice and even finish to your piece. So that means always the one that comes over is always the holding chord. We need to make our first row of knots now. So the one that's underneath coming from the left side is my working chord. So I need to make a double half hitch with that one around the holding chord. And then because this row we're making around the holding cord here, we're holding outward, it's coming out this direction and it needs to go right below the row here where we attached all the cords in the first place. So whenever I'm tightening my knots, I'm going to hold the holding cord in that direction right underneath the previous row to make sure they become as nice and tight together without any gaps in between the rows. Grab the very next cord, always double check you have the very next one so you're not crossing any of your working cords over. Make a double half hitch with that as well. So you can see now we're starting to see we're actually building a row of knots here. Pick out your next cord, this one, next working cord coming underneath, they're all coming underneath the holding cord here. Tighten that all the way up, always make a double half hitch. Grab the very next one around the holding cord, and once more for a double half hitch, like that. We're getting towards the end. Grab the next one, make a double half hitch. Just working your way outward here. And then we have the last one left. In this case I'm just going to take out the pin just so I can get the last knot properly and tightly done. Use that last working cord to make your double half hitch as well. And finish off this row that we're doing right now. Just like that. So now the row that we've just been making is right underneath the first one where we attached all the cords. And this is where we're at now then. We now have the two holding cords coming out towards the side here. Just put them out to the side for now. We've used all these working cords. So now what we need to do is go to the other side and start making our row over here. Basically doing the exact same thing. We're just working in the opposite direction. So that means again we need to go to the inner corner and grab the very first cord on each side, so the two inner cords there. And in this case, because we're working in the opposite direction, we're just using the one inner cord there from the left side of the row that we just did. So that means all the other working cords can just go out of the way like that. So we grab that inner one from the left side, it's coming naturally over towards the right side, over all the others here. Bring them down, it's going to now be the working cords, and the one crossing over from the opposite side, let's get these out of the way, is the holding cord, the very first one. Again, all your working cords are coming out underneath the holding cord, grab the very first one you run into, make a double half hitch. So we're doing the exact same thing except we're using opposite hands now for the jobs that we're doing. Grab the very next one. So it's just taking your time, because usually with macrame and micro macrame and that, you quite often have to keep switching hands. So it's just a matter of getting used to that, and it'll end up coming more natural after you've done it for a little while. Double half hitch with each of these working cords. Always grab the very next one, almost at the end of this row. Again, I'm just going to unpin this just to make sure I get the last knot done properly tight. And tighten the last one. And there we go. So I now have two rows on each side, right underneath each other. Ideally with no gaps if you can help it. Again, two holding cords on that side now. Put them out of the way to the side because we're not going to be using them just yet again. Now, because we have a bit of work done as well, we have two rows. What I'm actually going to do now is put some pins in more permanently here. And I'm actually doing that in between the rows. I find that better. It's easier to get through, but also you're not damaging your cord in the same way as if you're going through the actual rows of the cord. So I'm putting them in between the rows there. So we basically have to keep doing the same thing. Go back to the midpoint there, one from each side of that very inner corner. Because we're starting a new section of rows, I take my right one over my left one. Remember, it doesn't matter, just make sure you stay consistent and do the same one throughout. And then you just want to start making double half hitches again. So because the holding cord is pointing this direction, all the working cords are the ones coming out underneath from that side. Tighten that, grab the very next one. And now because we have the previous row that we did, the chords are a lot more separated now anyway as well. So they're easier just to grab the next one. Because they're more naturally separated from that previous row that we did. So just do your double half hitches all the way out. Just like this, to the end of the row. And the last one, finishing up this row. As you can see then now, you'll be able to see all the rows are going to actually end up in the same place, so along the same level here. But because now this holding cord from that row we can put out to the side, because we're actually getting rid of one holding cord for every row though, every row does become shorter and shorter, if you can see from the midpoint there. Which also means every row is going to be quicker. Go back to the corner, put the holding cords, the working cords that you just used out to the side, out of the way, except for the very inner one. That now comes over the ones on the right side, the side that we haven't done this section of rows yet. So it goes over, that's the holding cord, the ones coming underneath are the working cords. Grab the first one, make a double half hitch. Like that, grab the very next one. Again, building up this row right underneath the previous one on this side. Grab the next one. Making your double half hitches, working your way outward. And the last one on this row. And there we go. And again we've ended up with this holding cord that we put out to the side with the other two previous ones. And then basically we want to keep doing this, so we're now just repeating and repeating, except every row from now and before, every row gets smaller and smaller, or shorter and shorter. So again, the two inner ones, my right one goes over my left one, make a double half hitch with all the cords coming underneath. Grab the next one, work your way out, and you'll slowly now be able to start seeing the actual shape we're going to end up with as well. Because all the rows end in the same level, this is actually going to end up being a square or a diamond, depending how you look at it. The last one, that's that row. Put the holding cord out to the side, go back to the middle, to the corner there, grab the first one from the working cord you just used, put it over the others, get the other working cords out of the way, put it over towards the other side there, and then you want to start doing your row on that side with the working cords coming underneath from that side, from that previous row. And as you can see, rows have become much shorter now, much quicker to do. And the last one here to finish off this row, and again the holding cord, put it out to the side with the rest. Go back to the middle, that inner corner, cross the right one over the left, and we're slowly starting to get to the end of this square or diamond, kind of the point of it. Make your next row here, the last one, before we then again put the holding cord out of the way, go over to the other side with the very inner one from that side, make your row on here, and that way we've only got two working cords on this side left. Last one coming underneath. You can really start to see that shape forming now. Put the holding cord out of the way. Now we only have two cords left on each side, so again just same thing, take the inner two, my right one goes over my left one, make a double half hitch, and the last one in this row, put the holding cord from that row out of the way, go in and take the first one from that row, crossing over to the other side, and on here we only have one working cord left, so just take that and do a double half hitch around the holding cord, just like that. And then now we only have the two cords left, so I take my right one over my left one and make my very last knot. So this is right at the point. There we go, so that's the very final row. And we now have this, basically a square or diamond shape, where we then just have all these cords coming out from the two bottom sides of it. So then once we're in this position, what we actually want to do now is kind of close off these sides down here and make them nice and neat. So I'm just going to start on one side. I'm going to take my left side first. So what I'm going to do is take the very outer cord here of all of them. I'm going to bring that over all the others. And then this is going to be my holding cord, in this case, to begin with. Then what I'm going to do is grab the very next one. They're all nice and separated now. The very next one is coming out underneath. Do a double half hitch with that, because all of these now are my working cords. Bring that all the way up into that corner. And basically we're done sealing off that very first proper row that we did. Then what I'm going to do is leave this working cord we just used out to the side. Then I'm going to grab the very next working cord underneath, make a double half hitch with that. Continue this row we're doing underneath now, kind of sealing off all the rows in the middle. So now the difference is, instead of just leaving this working cord out to the side, we actually want to bring this in with the holding cord. So we're going to end up having two holding cords. All you do is just bring it in with it. Grab the very next working cord coming underneath the two holding cords, and even though you got two holding cords now, they're still just acting as one pretty much. Do a double half hitch with the next working cord. Like that. And then we need to do the same thing. So bring the working cord you just used in with the other two holding cords. Still just acting as one. Make a double half hitch with your next working cord coming underneath. We're building up this row and we're getting more and more holding cords here. Kind of bunching up. So the row is becoming a bit thicker as well as we go. Bring the previous working cord you just used in with the holding cords. And we're just going to be doing this all the way down to the point. Like that. Again, bring the last working cord you just used in with the holding cords. We now have a whole bunch of them. Still just acting as one, and make your last double half hitch with your last working cord here. Just like that. And that's that side sealed off. And basically what you want to do now is the exact same thing on the other side here. So just put these out of the way. So grab the very outer one, bring it in over the other cords coming underneath on this side. So these are all your working cords. Make a double half hitch with the first one, all the way up into that corner, like that. And the first working cord here, like the other side, we'll leave that out to the side. And then we'll grab the very next one, make a double half hitch. And then it's from here on we need to start bringing every single working cord that we just used in with the holding cord. And just keep doing this throughout the rest of the row. All the way down. Bring your working cord in when you've used it. Grab the very next one. Make a double half hitch around all of these holding cords. All acting as one. Bring it in. Grab the next working cord around all of them. Getting towards the point again. Tighten that nicely. Bring the last working cord in, and then make your last double half hitch with the last working cord there. Tighten that nicely around all of these holding cords now. And make sure your knots are nice and tight and close together. So just like that. And then this is where we're at now. We have these two rows of knots that have kind of been building up with multiple holding cords inside, so they get a bit thicker there, pointing in towards each other there in the middle, kind of want to cross over. So this is where we're at now, and the one holding cord on each side, sorry, working cord that we used last, And then we have this one that we left out, the very first working cord, right up in the other points on the side there. So then what I want to do now is all these holding cords in the middle coming down towards the bottom here. So these two working cords, one on each side, the last ones that we used, what I want to do is just use them around all these holding cords in the middle to just make a simple square knot. So put this over all of those together, take the other one over that, and then underneath all of them here in the middle. Make sure you go under all of them and don't miss any. Like that. Then pull up through the loop on the other side we created with the first cord. And then I want to pull this all the way up to the bottom of that square. So that was one side, we now need to start with the other side. It doesn't matter what side you start your square knot with, as long as you then do the other side from the opposite side. Otherwise it won't become a square knot. So we'll take the other one straight underneath everything in the middle there, and then tighten that all the way up. And there we go. So that's now nicely tightened. We still have all our cords. What you just want to make sure to do now is that you still have the two groups of the holding cords here with an equal amount of cords in each one. And they're now going to start pointing towards their own side again, because we need to start building up the next diamond or square. So to do that, again I'm going to start on one side at a time. So I'm starting on my left side and putting the other ones out of the way. So all these are still to begin with going to be my holding cords, this group. Like I said, make sure you have an equal amount there. The working cord on this side that we used to make that square knot with, I'm going to bring that down underneath, because that's now going to be my first working cord around all of these holding cords. So I'm going to make my double half hitch with that, and then as I'm tightening this I want to make sure that I hold all these in an angle that comes outward again to be the top basically of the next square or diamond that we're going to make. Like that, double half hitch, tighten it all the way up to just below that square knot there that we made in between. So that's the first one. Now what we need to do is pick out one of our holding cords, and then take that, and this is coming from where the other ones are coming from as well, but just take that around your finger and through the loop, around the cords there as well. Tighten that all the way up, once more for a double half hitch. Again, making sure when you're tightening your knots, you hold your holding cords outward at that angle. What might help as well actually, so I'm just going to put some more pins in so my piece doesn't move around too much. It's going to help get that angle in place properly. So there we go. Grab your next holding cord from the bunch, make a double half hitch around the rest. So now you can see we're actually going down, instead of adding into the holding cords, we're taking away. Grab the next one, and with each one we take out we're making a double half hitch. And then you can see that we're getting all these cords pointing outwards from this row that we're making now. Instead of bringing them in, we're taking them out. The last one, so I only have one holding cord left, like that. So leave it at this for now, because we still have this one up here that we need to bring in, but I'm just going to leave that. What I'm going to do first of all is go to the other side and do the exact same thing. So take the whole bunch of holding cords, take the working cord from that square knot underneath them, make a double half hitch around all of them, tighten it all the way up to just below that square knot, like that. That's your first one. And then the same thing again, pick out one cord from the whole bunch of holding cords there and make a double half hitch with that to build up this row going outward the opposite direction. But again, so you're getting that 90-degree angle between these two rows. Again, taking out your holding cords one at a time. So we're going to end up just having the one left, just like the other side. I'm almost at that step. The very last one, your working cord around your holding cord, and then you've done your row on this side as well. We've ended up with this where we have the 2 rows coming at an angle out from that square knot, and all we have left to do is bring in these 2 from the previous diamond in as well. So when we're at this point now, this is where we need to bring in the beads as well. So what I'm going to do is have them running along the side using these cords that we leave out when we do the underside there and cage in this square. So in my case, what I've done is I've used these beads that I showed you. I've taken one of my metal spacer beads first, and then my large gemstone, and then another metal spacer beads, and they're going to fit perfectly just across there. So you see, you can really use whatever beads you want to and fill this gap in however you want, using large beads, smaller beads, whatever, as long as you make sure the very bottom of your bead there meets up with where that row ends down here. Because then what we need to do is bring this in as well, because if you remember, it was incorporated up here, so we do need to use this cord down here as well. And then obviously to fasten in the beads as well. So I'm going to bring the cord with the beads underneath that holding cord that we have left from this row, and just do a regular double half hitch, tighten that down, and then it's going to sit like this. Another one to make it secure, and push that and pull it all the way tight. There we go. So now the beads on that side are in place. We need to do the exact same thing on the opposite side there. So just make sure that your row first of all is sitting nicely, and then we can also take the beads and drop them down here. Again, 1 metal spacer bead, 1 large round, and then one metal spacer bead in my case. And I like that contrast with the copper and the purple and green. It really looks nice, I think, with the colours. Again, bring the cord with the beads underneath the holding cord and make a double half hitch. And tighten that right at the end of the row that you've been making. So there we go. Now the beads are nicely securely in place along that side. And then we're pretty much back at where we can start repeating now. So this point that we're at, this row that we've made the top on here, where we just finished off those rows with the beads on, is actually the top row where we attached the cords originally. So it's the equivalent to that. So what we need to do now is start repeating, make another square here in the exact same way that I did up here. So that means you start by going all the way back, taking the 2 inner cords in the very corner there, 1 from each side, so those 2 that are furthest in, and then we need to start making our rows from here, remembering to cross over the same cord every time. So I take my right one over my left, like that, cross them over, and then I'm going to start towards my left side, so I'm going to put all the ones from the right side here out of the way, except for that one holding cord that I'm using from there. And then we just pick back up, start making our rows with our double half hitches, using 1 working cord at a time here. I was grabbing the very next one. They're all coming out underneath. And then this is just starting off the second row that we did up here, the first proper one, underneath the row where we attached all the cords, all the way out. And then again, when you get to the outside here, the holding cord you just put out to the side, just like we did up here, making every row after each other. Once you've done this row, go over to the other side, the 2 inner ones, make a row there, and keep crossing back and forth from side to side. And then that's how you build up your second square in the exact same way as you did that one with the square of the diamond, however you look at it. And then when we build that bottom row, where we'll bring in the holding cords back into it, so you're getting more and more holding cords. So the previous working cord that you used to make that final row, you bring into it and build up your holding cords. Except for the very first one that we need to use to attach the beads with, we just keep repeating this step until we reach the length, almost as long as you want your bracelet to be. Obviously minus whatever clasp that you're using. That's why I'm just going to use the jump rings here to attach my clasp to that we started out with. So you just want to keep doing this until you reach the length that you want. So now that I kept going here, making my diamonds one after the other and adding my beads along the sides, along the way of making them, I've personally ended up with 7 of these diamonds all the way to my last one down here, and this is going to end up being about a 7.5 inch bracelet. So now that we reach this point where I reach my last diamond down here, all we need to do now is finish this one off and get rid of some of our cords as well. So how we're going to do that, it's the same principle as the other one. So we're going to finish off that last edge down here. The only difference is, obviously because this is the last one, we don't have to worry about adding any beads like we've done throughout. So we just start the same way, take your outer one, start on one side at a time, take your outer, very most outer cord there, bring it over all the rest, and then with the very next cord coming underneath, to start making that outer edge and finish off this diamond, make a double half hitch with this, coming back underneath all the ends of these rows on this side. And now instead of leaving this out like we've done the other times for the beads, we need to straight away bring that into it. And then we take our next working cord underneath, tighten that with the double half hitch, like that. And then here we need to start getting rid of some of our cords as well. So to do that, what we need to do before we make the next step, where we take the next working cord there and also bring this working cord that we just used into it, we now have two of these holding cords like we've done throughout, so gradually getting one holding cord every single time, one more here in the bunch. Instead of continuing with that, we actually need to get rid of some along the way as well. So when you've just made this last double half hitch with the one we just did, we've got two of our holding cords here. They're going to get a pair of scissors, go in and cut off one of them very close down. I like to leave just about 1 millimeter or so, like that, cut it off. And then we bring the working cord that we just used to make the last double half hitch into it. So we now again have two holding cords. Then we go to the next working cord coming underneath, do a double half hitch with that around the now two holding cords there. And then because I leave that about 1 millimeter or so, when you tighten this one, you just want to make sure that it goes in and catches the very end of that cord you just cut off. Just like that. And then another one for the double half hitch. And tighten that nicely. And then again we have the two holding cords. And then do the same principle. So pick one of them. Go in and cut off that one. So you have about 1 millimeter left. Get rid of that cord. Bring the previous working cord into the holding cord, so you again have two. Take the next working cord and make a double half hitch. Remember to just catch that little end that you got. And full double half hitch here, tighten it nicely. And we'll keep going like this, so every time we have these two holding cords, before we make the next knot with the next working cord, we just want to get rid of one of them. All the way down to the end. Just catch the end there. Make your next double half hitch here. Tighten it nicely, like that. Then we still have two. Get rid of one again. Leave about 1 millimeter. Bring your latest working cord into it. So you still have two holding cords. Now you've got one working cord left. Just make a double half hitch with that again. Catch the little end. And then what I'm just going to do as well is, before I make the second part of that double half hitch, I just want to cut off one more of these, because we don't have any more working cords after this one. So just cut this off very down close as well, so that the very last, the second half of this double half hitch we're making now is just going to catch that one. Make sure it does go in and catch that very little end. And there you go, that's the one side done. So what you want to do now is to go over to the other side and do exactly the same thing, just with opposite hands of course. So just put these out of the way. Take the very outer cord, bring it in over all the rest towards the middle of the bracelet. Start doing your double half hitches with the very next working cord coming underneath. And then remember, instead of leaving this one out for beads, because we're not adding beads, just bring it in straight away. Make a double half hitch with your next one. And then, this is then where, because we have two holding cords, before we make the next knot, we just need to get rid of one of them. and then bring in the previous working cord, and then you can go and make your next knot. And just remember to catch that little end. And there we go. And you just want to keep doing this all the way down on this side as well until you get to the same point that we did on the other side, and they kind of meet there in the middle. So now that I've gone all the way down this side as well, what I have left now are the two laced holding cords there, kind of pointing towards each other like they want to cross over. And then I have the two latest working cords as well, one on each side. And then the last thing I just want to do to finish off this diamond is cross these over. So I take my one coming from the right side over the one on the left side. So these are the two holding cords we're working with, because I basically want to do the same as all the other times. Just finish this point off, make a double half hitch around that there, and tighten that nicely. And now that diamond here is nicely finished off. So this is what we've got left now. These two latest working cords that we used, I'm just going to put those out of the way and get rid of them right at the end. But it's a lot better now just having to get rid of these, while we got rid of all the others along the way. Then now, just to finish off the end completely, because if you remember we have a jump ring on the other end, that's how we started out. What we need to have as well is a jump ring down here that we can then attach our clasp to and all that. So we just get another jump ring out of the 7mm there, and just again make sure it's nicely closed so there's not an open gap on it, or if you're using a closed jump ring that's fine. Then I'm just going to be using these last two cords that we just made the very last knot with. So those two that I put out of the way, we're not going to be touching them. So just these two down here right at the point. I'm going to put one of my cords through the jump ring and let it drop all the way down there. And then I'm going to take the other one here, and just having the jump ring on one of them, I'm going to just tie a regular overhand knot with both of them together here. And then I'm going to tighten this all the way down like that. Then what I want to do is the cord that kind of looks like it's wanting to go through the jump ring, I'm actually going to put that back through the jump ring again all the way. And then on the bottom side here, so towards the top, I want to tie another regular overhand knot with the two cords together. But because we put one through the jump ring, it's still fastening that jump ring in place. And then I'm just tightening this down towards the bottom there of the jump ring. So we're just working with it, getting it nicely in place. And then we have the cords like this. Obviously we need this jump ring to lay flat. So what I'm going to do is bring my one cord all the way around, not through the jump ring this time, but just all the way around kind of the back of the jump ring here, or just below it. And then again make a regular overhand knot, and then make sure when you tighten this knot that cord goes behind the jump ring, just like that, and that's going to help it lie flat. And then I want to do one last one, because we want it to not be too bulky, so I don't want to be doing too many, but I also want it to be secure and lay nicely. I'm going to do one last one here, so just make your knot. But then this one I actually want to slide behind the jump ring, so just lift it up, and then I'm sliding this behind it, so the knot is actually tightening on the back side. Just like that. And now the jump ring lies nice and flat as well, and just pull it nice and tight so we get our knots as tight as possible there. So that's now the jump ring attached. So I can take out all my pins, and the other end is already ready because that's where we started out. So we have the jump ring there nice in place. Down here we just have a few cords left over, so we just want to get rid of those last little cords here. And the way that I like to do that is cinch off the ends here, so using a lighter in this case. You can do this if you're using a synthetic cord like me, but if you're using a natural cord, you're going to have to just use some glue. So if you're using a natural cord like cotton or something, you just want to put a bit of glue right there where the cords are coming out, let it dry for a bit, cut off the excess cord, and then maybe just a bit of glue on the end again and let it dry. But otherwise what I'm going to be doing is sealing my cords in place. So just take one at a time, cut down your cord. So again you have about 1mm or 2 left. like that. And then I'm going to take my lighter while I get all the other ones out of the way. So I just want to do this one at a time. And then with that little 1 or 2 millimeter that we have left of the cord sticking out, I want to get my lighter right on that, cinch it down, and then you can just press it in. And that seals the end in place here, so it's not going to come undone when you do this, because it seals that cord in place and melts it in place. And it also makes it a nice and seamless finish. You can see, you can barely see that. And it's on the back side as well. So obviously be careful doing this because it is a naked flame we're working with, and it does get hot. But I do find that if you just hold the flame over the cord for just a couple of seconds, you can just push it down with your finger. Otherwise you can also use the lighter itself and push it down, because obviously you don't want to let it go hard again before you do that. So do this with all the cords, the ones coming from the last knot that were made to attach the jump ring as well. And then once you've done that, we've gotten rid of all the cords. So I now finished off all my cords there, and I've also gone on and then attached my extender chain here and my Lobster claw clasp. Just using some extra jump rings, 2 of those original ones. You can obviously use whatever type of clasp that you want, but then this is the finished bracelet. So you get all your diamonds there with your beads running along the side, and then it's easy and just ready to wear, and it's going to be really comfortable as well. So you got all the macrame going around, but then you got a nice regular metal clasp here, if that's what you want to use, and then your bracelet will look like this. So that's how you make this. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching. Hello everyone, today I want to show you how to make these macrame bracelets, and these are the beaded version of my intertwining herringbone macrame bracelet that I did last year, and they look like this. So I've just made these 2 examples. So it's the exact same technique, as you can see, but because of the different just cord that I've used here, you get 2 very different looks, and even the beads are the same ones as well. So I've used a white satin cord and then a black one, because I thought that would be a nice neutral background colour for the silver